channel. So for today's video, we have yet another COVID video. Surprise, surprise. So I kind of had an idea going through COVID that pretty much the virus destroyed my body and any type of health that I was carrying prior to contracting the virus. I was hoping for the best, obviously, but realistically, I know my body and I know how it is after I get like pneumonias, flus, or other viruses. It usually kind of flares me up a little bit, but usually I can bounce back pretty quickly. Concerning COVID, because it's a different and foreign mechanism that no one really knows what they're doing with it, and doesn't really know like the damage that it really truly can cause, because they're still researching and learning from different humans that have contracted it, etc. So I didn't know what to expect. So today I am going to be sharing with you my post-COVID test results, and I've never done this before, and it's really a vulnerable thing for me, but I really think that people need to know, at least in my personal case, having chronic diseases prior to contracting COVID and the damage that COVID caused in my body. I think it is very helpful to educate people that it causes damage. It's not just, some I got a cold and I was in bed for 2 weeks. No. This thing ripped my body to shreds. And I am definitely feeling all the effects of it since getting cleared. So I am going to share with you today everything that I know of currently of what happened and how COVID kind of wreaked havoc. So a really cool skill that I developed while going through my chronic illness journey the last 10 years is teaching myself how to read my labs, blood labs, from all different types of labs, from LabCorp to Genova to Quest to different types of outside labs, functional medicine labs, and regular mainstream labs. I've been able to teach myself how to interpret it and read it. And this is because of years of researching, studying, my education, as well as getting my labs, reading it, and then confirming it with my doctors. So what I did this time is, obviously, I went over and through my labs, made notes, wrote down everything I believed it was saying, and then I confirmed it with my doctor, my primary care doctor, and he said the exact same things that I knew, and just hearing it from him made it a little bit more surreal. And it honestly, it's been discouraging. I'm not gonna lie, I worked really hard to get my body into remission and just being able to feel amazing and be able to be a workaholic and only have a few side effects here and there of my chronic diseases. But I was able to get everything under control, like my diabetes and all my autoimmune, and my Lyme went into remission. And then COVID hit and it changed everything. And hearing the doctor say a few of the things and then, confirming what I knew, what I saw in my labs, was rather discouraging. And I had a few pretty low days of feeling sad about this, because years it's taken for me to feel good and consistently good and have more good days than bad days and have less side effects of my autoimmune diseases. And knowing that the reason why I've been experiencing all my symptoms that I used to experience in 2017 and prior, that's been kind of hard and challenging physically, emotionally, mentally, spiritually, and it's just, basically starting back over. at square one, and it's because of a measly virus. And usually viruses, you know, like just knock me down for a couple weeks and then I can build myself up and do my regimen and everything, but this actually caused damage I never even had prior to COVID, as well as flared everything up. But I will be getting to all of that in these results. So I have my 2020 health binder. As you can see, there's only a little bit of labs. Usually my regular binders are like big binders. But that'll be another video later on down the line. So first off, obviously, I did LabCorp labs, and that's like CBC, CMP, thyroid, you know, some of the vitamins, cortisol levels, hormones, etc. I tested all of that. And I've been having the worst part, oh, this just gets me every time. So, okay, so I am type 1 diabetic, and A1C is an average, basically a blood lab average of your blood glucose levels for 3 months. And a lot of diabetics, you know, aim to have below 7%. And so I've been lucky, and I've had 6.2 for like years. Like when I went through a few like tragedies, it went up to 6.4 because the stress levels bring up blood sugars, but then I was able to get back down to like 6.2%. Well, my A1C went from 6.2 to a 7.6% post-COVID. So all these labs I took probably 2 weeks from ending COVID, because I still had to wait 2 weeks after getting cleared to go back into work to work with patients, and because I wanted to be super careful and make sure I didn't pass it to anyone, which I didn't give COVID to not one person, so that's actually pretty good. Not one person got COVID from me during those few months or after. So I'm pretty stoked about that. But anyway, so when I went back to work in the medical field, I was able to take my labs right then, and then it took like 2 months to get these results back. So that's why I'm doing a video now, is because it took like 2 months to get them back. But these labs I did right after I got cleared of COVID. So this was like right in the pit of everything that COVID did to me. Anyway, so that's my A1C. So that takes that takes a lot of work to bring it from a 7.6% to a 6.2% to where I was. So in 3 months again, I'll take it again, and hopefully by the end of this year, I'll be back down in the 6%. And that just means, you know, if the lower your A1C, the least amount of chance you have from complications from diabetes, like having like nerve damage, eye damage, whatever, kidney damage. Like I am really strict on my blood sugar levels because I don't want future damage from that disease, and you know, nobody has time for that. I don't have time for that. Like I am gonna be a doctor. Like I don't want to have complications from the diseases now, so I'm doing my best to be proactive about my autoimmune diseases and be able to do everything that I can to promote healing and restoration in my body. So today I'm actually mainly going to be going over the Genova labs rather than the LabCorp labs, because those are just, you know, it's gonna take time for my body to just, you know, restore itself, the liver, the kidneys, my A1C, and blood cells, etc. Like that is just gonna take time. But today I want to go over the Genova labs. So this is one of the labs that I have. So I wanted to go over the Genova labs, which hopefully this works. But this is what one of the blood kits look like, and I'll be going over the stool kit first. because everyone wants to know how COVID affects your gut. And boy, does it affect it. Like, I was one of the lucky ones that it went into my lungs more than it went into my digestive system, even though there were like three days where I had pretty brutal GI symptoms. Don't want to remember those times. Thank you to all my friends that I texted during those moments, praying, asking for prayer and relief from those horrific moments. But anyways, so COVID really does affect your GI system, and it's kind of sad. One thing that is super interesting is, so I try to get the like GI Stool Effects profile done, and this is a functional medicine testing, and this goes over, you know, like enzymes, yeast, parasites, bacteria, everything in your digestive system through stool analysis. And it goes over maldigestion, inflammation, infection, metabolic imbalance, dysbiosis, etc. So it goes over like those things. So one weird thing, I try to do this like once a year, and so I did this previously to COVID, and the only problem I really had was just like yeast from all the antibiotics for when I had tonsillitis. And so I didn't have any parasites, I didn't have any bacteria, I didn't have any inflammation, and I was consistent with those results since 2017, after I went full vegan and after I went into remission from Lyme disease and I was off treatment. So this is what's really hard for me personally, because the two like main things that have really just like plagued me, besides my actual like autoimmune diseases and such, is symptoms in my head, like migraines, neurological symptoms, as well as gastrointestinal symptoms, like pains after I eat, bloatedness after I eat, and just really bad pain, and nausea, etc. So those were like some of the symptoms that I was just so stoked on life about after 2017, because it was greatly reduced, and the only times I would experience those types of symptoms is if I was in high amounts of stress and grief, and then if I just had like a sickness, like, you know, the flu or something, but I would eventually like bounce back. But now after COVID, I am completely flared up. And I have noticed all my symptoms that I used to have prior, since getting cleared from COVID. And I'll link below, but you can check out my video of post-COVID symptoms. I go into detail of that. But now this is what's really bizarre is, okay, so I have one bacteria pathogen. I have one bacteria pathogen that is harmful. And this bacteria, I looked it up, did research, you can contract from healthcare settings. So I either contracted it from a patient, right before all the PPE and everything, but I'm usually very like good about like gloves and interacting with patients like before the pandemic as well. But that could have been an option because I do work in healthcare, but the second option that you can, the second place that you can contract this particular bacteria is in the hospital. And I did go in the hospital, and I went into a COVID unit. I went into a COVID isolation room when I went into the hospital when I had COVID. And so I could have easily picked it up there because I wasn't wearing gloves, you know. And at one point I did, you know, eat crackers like with my bare hands and whatnot. But anyway, so I have that one bacteria, and I haven't had that before, so that's caused a little bit of distress, just with like bloating and some nausea after I eat. But anyway, so I have that, and then this is like another sad thing that I just am like so shooken up about, but it's okay. It's okay because my body healed and restored before. Like, God healed me before. He can put me into remission on these things yet again. But ever since I was a kid growing up, I've always had like IBS or whatever. But then going through like detailed testing and whatnot, like biopsies, like all those different tests and exams and yeah, those types of procedures, going through all of those, I ended up getting a diagnosis of left distal colitis, inflammatory bowel disease, during my Lyme treatment. And it was horrific. Like, it was so activated during that time. I was just miserable. I couldn't eat anything. But that's another video. But basically, once I went vegan, once I went full vegan, because for years I was like taking meat out because I just could not digest meat. But once I went full vegan in 2017, I mean, literally within a month, guys, like all the symptoms, the flare-up, everything, I was able to eat without extreme pains and like distension of my stomach and nausea. It was amazing. I wasn't as dependent on Zofran all the time, and I was just so stoked. So I've been able to have relief from that. And there were a few times in the last few years, obviously, when I ate certain foods that would flare it up, I would just have like an episode that night or whatever, but it was so like rare. So having COVID, it flared up my IBD, and so I've had my like left distal colitis symptoms ever since I contracted COVID, because it flared up while I had COVID, and I was having it during that. But it has like stayed. So I'm like, oh my God. But it's okay. It's okay. I'm doing certain things to get myself back into remission from it and to reduce the symptoms and distress on my GI system. And maybe I'll make that another video too, like how to reduce flare-ups in your gastrointestinal tract. We'll see though. Hit a like if you want to see that type of video. But anyway, so having COVID flared that up, so there's a lot of inflammation, level 9 out of 10. My maldigestion is actually amazing. So like my fecal fats, my products of protein breakdown, and my pancreatic enzymes, some of them are pretty good. So that's amazing. So I'm not having maldigestion, so that's good. But the inflammation is pretty bad. Dysbiosis, so I have the bacteria and the yeast in your GI tract means like antibiotics, and I took a few antibiotics this year for kidney infection, because right after COVID, like right before COVID, I had developed a kidney infection, and then I got rid of it while I had COVID, but then it came back at the end of COVID, so I had to go again on antibiotics for that. So I had to do like 3 rounds of antibiotics this year, and that's like horrible for your gut. I was taking obviously probiotics and prebiotics while I took them, but even so, I still have the yeast from that. And then I, like a lot of my enzymes, digestive enzymes, are whacked out. And then the pathogenic bacteria is that one that I was telling you about. And then some of the white blood cells are pretty high, so that's interesting. And then there's a few other little flags, but it's nothing that can't be fixed with, you know, adding things to my diet and vitamins and nutrients and such. But on to the next test. So the second test is the Nutraeval micronutrient test by Genova. And this goes over like your antioxidants, your vitamins, your minerals, and your amino acids, and how you're methylating, and your antioxidants, and your environmental toxins as well as your like fatty acids, your oxidative stress, nutrient elements, and then toxic elements, and your minerals, which I think I said. And then it goes over your mitochondrial dysfunction, etc. So it goes through all of that, and it's just such a great test, and I recommend it. So while I had COVID, I made sure I supplemented, because I know when my body is in that much distress, and especially when I'm like fighting for my life, my body tends to deplete itself very quickly and rapidly. So I made sure to supplement as much as I could while I had COVID, which is great because I only have a few in the red zone that I'm completely deficient in. I do have a lot on the borderline, as you can see from the picture that I showed earlier. But what's cool is my vitamin C is in the green zone. So you can tell I like upped my dosage of vitamin C while I had COVID. But yeah, I thought that was funny. Anyways, so my B2, B3, my magnesium levels are deficient. Vitamin A is a little bit borderline. Vitamin E, A-lipoic acid, B1, B6, and zinc. So even though I was supplementing with zinc, my zinc still got super low. Well, borderline. So what I try to do is the deficiencies in the borderline and the high needs, so yellow and red zone, I supplement extra with for 3 months, and then I retest, and then I see how, like, which adjustments I need to make again, especially after being sick. So that is that. So my minerals, basically my zinc and my magnesium, otherwise my other minerals are okay. And then my probiotics. So even though I was like supplementing with probiotics the entire time I took like antibiotics as well as having COVID, it still wrecked my gut. Like it took a lot of probiotics out. So I am in high need support for higher dosages of probiotics. So I find that just wonderful. So yeah, and then my amino acid panel is low, and that can come from proteins. Obviously I'm vegan, so vegans have to supplement with, you know, amino acids. And I got a really cool product that has all the amino acids that I am deficient in, and I'm gonna just put it on my rice, and then that should be able to, you know, kind of balance it out again while I'm in my deficient time. So yeah, my plant-based antioxidants are borderline, and that just means like oxidative stress can decrease it, because obviously like I'm plant-based, you know, so I eat plant-based antioxidants all the time, but the amount that I would have just needed, you know, crazy amounts having COVID, because it just wrecks everything. It just depletes you in every way. So that's borderline. So I'll just be, you know, continuing my plant-based foods and just kind of increasing a few new ones, you know, to like kind of give different mixtures and such. And then obviously, so what decreased that was the oxidative stress. So that means, you know, the fact that I couldn't breathe for months and I still have problems breathing. But that will be another video. 3-month update on lungs coming soon. But anyways, because my body was in so much stress fighting COVID, and then right after I got released and cleared, I went straight back into working with patients and working in the medical field and depleting myself even more. And then right after that, I got vaccines. And in order to start my new job, my new medical job, they gave me vaccines, and that killed me. Like, so my body has been under a lot of stress, physical stress. And so one thing to reduce that is I am definitely implementing different types of stress reducers each day, and I'll be making different types of videos on that, like how to reduce stress during like medical jobs, how to reduce stress during high stress jobs, etc. Because there's so many different ways you can just nourish yourself, your mind, body, and spirit, and just reduce stress, even though you're living a stressful life. But you know, it's a learning curve. It's a learning process. Anyways, so that was, you know, something that I found interesting. And also the stress, you know, hit some of the other levels of like B vitamins. My zinc is borderline, so I just have to supplement with foods and a supplement, you know, until it bounces out again. But yeah, I gotta hurry up and get that up again, you know, before flu season starts. Gotta boost my immune system. Another thing is when you're deficient in vitamins, it plummets your immune system. So this shows that my immune system is still low. Like, it's still trying to build itself up from fighting so hard to fight COVID off for the 70 plus days that I had it. So also toxic exposure, it just is saying like EPA, BPA, so just like plastic. And I've done a lot to reduce my environmental toxic load and heavy metal toxic load. And that'll be another video, because environmental toxins really do make a difference in how you process foods and methylate, and how you how your immune system functions, as well as how your hormones function. So toxic exposure is super important, and I've moved over to like glass containers for storage. I tried to get my water filled in glass jars. Obviously there was a few times where, you know, actually majority of the time, because I didn't have the glass jars when I had COVID, but I was just drinking out of plastic, as well as my water filter though, so I was alternating. But you know, I've stopped using foil, etc. I've stopped using those things, and so on my toxic exposure, I have some borderline. It's like right on good and borderline, so it's just probably from the few EPA, BPA products of the plastic water bottles that people brought me while I was sick. So that can be easily detoxed again, you know, just by lifestyle habits. My need for methylation is good, it's borderline. So that just, you know, neurotransmitter metabolism, DNA, estrogen, enzymes, you know, methylation is important for all those things. And so like usually with like B vitamins, methylfolate, that really helps. I always have an issue for methylation because of my MTHFR mutation gene. And so that I usually supplement with injections of B vitamins. One, because it helps my migraines, and two, it helps me methylate better, because even when I take my B complex or multivitamin B supplement in my oatmeal or smoothies, I still can't fully absorb it. I can't fully methylate it. So I just have to have all these different types of ways to be able to get the amount that I need. So that's that. So also from my results, I learned, obviously from my symptoms that I've been experiencing, but then confirmed with results. Like my Lyme has been in remission, my Lyme's been healed, but I still have the co-infection of Bartonella, also known as cat scratch disease. You can get it from cats, wild cats, or ticks. And so I have the tick infection, Bartonella, and it went into remission, like it was dormant in 2017, so I didn't bother treating it. I just kind of was like, yay, a win, get rid of Lyme and everything else, and then, you know, maybe they'll go away eventually. Obviously, that's not exactly how it worked for me in this time frame, because my Bartonella has gotten flared up. It went from sleepy tick disease to awakened beast. So that was, you know, pretty rough to realize. But more on that detailed later. But basically having COVID awoke that beast. It definitely put extra strain on my endometriosis. Like, it's been way more pains. Like, my cycles have been so painful since having COVID, like even more so than they were before. So that's totally flared up as well. And then my migraines and neurological symptoms have been completely haywire. Like my memory, guys, like I had great memory. I was getting A's in like pre-med classes besides chemistry. But chemistry I've always like struggled with, you know. But I was getting A's. I was getting A's in school. I was remembering everything at work. I was remembering everything in life. And then COVID happened. And while I was experiencing COVID, I had severe head pain, sharp pain for like 70 plus days straight. So it was like the worst migraine of your life for 70 straight days. And then after that, when that went away, thank God, I started getting my flashes of light migraines back, regular migraines back. And then I still had, during COVID, I had the worst brain fog, like my memory, like I didn't remember anything. Like it was really bad, like short-term memory loss. Like I was literally like that fish Dory. It was horrible. And I'm just like, oh, it'll go away. No, I've had like horrific memory since having COVID, and it's been 3 months since I got cleared from having COVID, and my memory is still the same. It's like a step lower than it was when I had COVID, but it's still the same. Like I am actually worried about my brain. So I'm, you know, figuring out what I need to do to heal my brain. But yeah, my memory has been so bad. Like I've failed so many tests in school, and I don't do that. And so that was really tough. It's been really tough to not like excel in school like I have been. So I made the decision, because of just the overload of all this, what's going on in my body right now, plus starting a new job where it's a new medical division that I have not worked in, so I have to learn all their terms, all their math, all their details and words and diagnoses. I have to learn everything. Like that's 2 classes already. And so I was like, you know what, let's just focus on work and having my brain focus on work and healing the rest of this year, except taking my last class that I need to graduate with my bachelor's in October. So I figured during this time I can figure out how to heal my brain. But anyways, so COVID flared up my brain, my memory, and my migraines, and it obviously still, it did lung damage. Like, I'm out of breath now talking, like, just doing this video. but I'll do a separate video on my lungs, but I still have the damage from that, and that is, I never had lung damage before. So I'll go into detail later on that, because that's like a huge common symptom and thing that most people with COVID have and have to endure. But anyway, so that happened, and then it's flared up my type 1 diabetes, where my blood sugars have just been haywire. Well, they've gone back to normal now, but it's just weird because even though they went back to normal, like I still have to I have higher intake of insulin that I have now than when I did before COVID. So it's like I became a little bit insulin resistant since having COVID, which is like weird, you know? Oh, and then a fun one, I've always had like 20/20 vision. I've had perfect vision my entire 29 years of life. And I have been struggling. So since COVID, I was like, yeah, that like pain, that sharp pain that I had in my head for like 70 days, obviously did damage. Like, you know, like I'm like, it's probably fried brain cells. It's how to do damage in my nerves and everything. Well, yes, it did, because I did just a simple eye exam and I failed it. The guy is like, you need glasses. I'm like, what? Like, I've never needed glasses except for like a month after I got diagnosed with type 1 diabetes. But otherwise, like, I've never needed glasses, and I like can't see things far away now. Like even on the TV, like when they have subtitles, nope, it's blurry. Some road signs, the green big road signs that are a little farther away, nope, that's blurry too. And like I can see things close up. It's like perfect vision close up, but like far away things I can't see anymore, and I'm just like, what? So yeah, I'm gonna have to go to a specialist on that. But that is another thing that COVID did to me. And then it just flared up, like Hashimoto's thyroid function. So that was Charlie. He like had a fur ball. He is a dog, and he sometimes hacks up stuff. That's probably gross. Like with my pots, it flared up that too. Like I've had to really make sure I'm careful and mindful about temperature and, you know, getting up fast and, you know, making sure I eat consistently and more, and then having more minerals daily and electrolytes. So I've really had to make sure and monitor my blood pressure, because I'm always like hypotensive low. So I've really had to make sure and be very mindful in everything. Like it's very exhausting, like having multiple diseases, like chronic diseases, and having to like manage every single one all at once 24/7, you know, and then not only just like managing it, but also having to repair it and restore the damage COVID did with it and flared it up. It's hard. It's a full-time job. So yeah, to all the people that don't believe COVID is real, like it is, like it's a pathogen, and it can destroy your body, unfortunately, if you're the right host. And so I just recommend, you know, getting blood tests. Obviously, like if you've had COVID, get blood tests, get functional medicine testing, just test everything and make sure your body is where it needs to be. And if it's not, you know, obviously guidance from your doctors, health coaches, nutritionists, etc. Even for me, if you have any questions on your nutrition and such. But I just encourage you to be proactive about your health, because COVID does damage your health and your body, and it is just, it's tragic and it's traumatic, and it's really difficult, because I have to still go about my normal life and like working in the medical field, helping others, and still try to heal myself. Like the battle with COVID didn't end the day the doctor said you're clear of the active infection and you have the antibodies. Like that wasn't the day it ended. It's still going. The war and the battle of COVID is still going inside of me, in the aspect of how much damage it caused after the initial infection. And it's okay, because our bodies know what they are doing. Our bodies know how to heal themselves. You know, it just needs the right tools. It needs the right guidance. It needs the right mindset and beliefs and prayers. And yeah, like, I fully believe, you know, God's given me these tools that I can use, these resources that I can use to help build my body back up. And I truly believe the power of prayer, that He will be able to utilize those tools and resources to be able to help heal my body again, and to put me in remission again, to where I feel amazing again. And it's a battle. Like, it's probably going to take until next year. That's what I'm guessing, but you never know. Anything is possible with God. And I thought I would be battling Lyme all my life, and I thought, honestly, at some points that I would die from it, because I was on my deathbed a few times. But I healed from it, you know, and I was able to be given a life to live. And so the same thing can happen again. Like just because I am looking at all these test results, and just because I heard the doctor say things, and just because I'm witnessing it in my own body with physical symptoms daily, doesn't mean it's permanent, you know? It's temporary, and I just have to keep doing my best. I just have to keep doing my best and being hopeful and faithful, and, you know, just not lose hope and not let, you know, stress or anxiety or fear or depression or discouragement or any of those toxic, low vibrational feelings and emotions and experiences hold me down and hold me back from being able to receive my healing. And it's very difficult. Like, I'll be going over in a video mental health during the COVID season, because obviously everyone has struggled with mental health in some way or another this year. And for me personally, it's been the fact that my health got taken away from me again. And I just never thought I would contract COVID. I never thought. I'm still shocked I contracted COVID. Like, I was like, no. And then I did. Like, what the heck? Like, my body didn't need that, you know? Like, but there's a reason. There's a reason why all of this happened. And, you know, it's just something I also can share with you guys is my journey back to health again. But with more details, because, you know, I'm not the only one going through this. And yeah, like, multiple people are going through this. It's not just me. And so I just have to remember that, and then just be hopeful and just really ground myself in my faith. Because when I'm focused on heavenly perspective, when I'm focused on purpose and having God confidence and being able to just focus on the faith of this horrific experience and all the damage it's done to my life, like, being able to have that faith and ground myself in that faith and positivity and hope, that is what will bring me out of this low area onto high mountaintop. And so I just have to keep rooting myself in that daily. And it is a daily mindful practice of being able to heal your mind, body, and spirit. And that's, you know, mindfully taking action, mindfully being proactive about your health, and receiving tools and resources on what you need to do to repair things in your life. And that's what I'm doing. So yeah, so those are the, like, results of it. So basically everything's flared. And I ended up developing some healthcare bacteria, and then I ended up getting the damage of my eyes and my lungs from it, as well as, like, my brain from COVID, to which I didn't have before I contracted it. So yeah, it's a lot. It's a lot to know, like, what your body's going through. and having to make adjustments in your life in every possible way to be able to promote healing in your life and the least amount of stress. Like, that is a goal, because even though like I work in a very stressful profession, especially since it's still a pandemic, like I still have to manage my stress. I have to learn how to manage all of this in order to be able to heal and restore, you know? But anyways, thanks for listening. I hope you were able to find this interesting, and if you were, give it a like and subscribe. That really helps me out, growing this community and being able to have my videos spread, so people are aware of COVID and the effects of it, and that it is real. It's real, unfortunately, as much as I wish it wasn't. It's very real, and it is a beast. It is a beast of a pathogen, but this little beastie boy can be tamed. It can be kicked back, because that is the mindset that I will have. Like, the damage COVID has done to my body, it's not permanent. This is only a temporary season, and I'm just grateful that I am alive, and I'm grateful I have these resources to be able to know exactly where I need to make adjustments, exactly where I'm flared up in my diseases and what aspects of my diseases I need to, you know, attack right away so that it prevents damage, any further damage. But anyways, I hope you guys are staying healthy, and if you have any questions or comments, comment below, and I will see you for the next video. I hope you have a beautiful, beautiful day.